It is 3 o'clock, and some of the comments that came in today, wow. That's all I'm saying is wow. Did your comment make the list? Stick around and find out. Let's go run it. Welcome to Prepper Nation. I am John. Thank you very much for watching, for shooting a thumbs up and hitting subscribe. Truly appreciate that. This is the rundown. This is the afternoon show here at Prepper Nation where we run down the comments from the live chat this morning and also the comments, the keynote comments from the replay crowd. And again, wowzers, were there a lot of the same comments? We'll get to those here in a little bit. I'm going to start with the live chat though. William Pence. I don't have smartphones, TVs, any of that. So he's talking about this morning's topic. It was in a response to a message I got, and the lady was just, I don't know that you would call it burnout. She was more not burnt out from prepping, but just burnt out from the constant bad news, which again, I totally understand. I'd said that this morning, but William Pence is saying, I don't have any of that crap. So it's awesome that you're checking us out somehow. I don't know if you're doing this at the library or what, William, but let me tell you something. I'm close to being there with you. In fact, I have literally used my smartphone one time since this weekend. It was in the afternoon. I left a short comment in a rundown chat and said, "Hey, I'm driving, blah blah blah." It's been Faradayed. It's in a Faraday bag literally right now, and it's just I put it in there one night at the end of the weekend so I could spend time with Miss Nation. I forgot about it. And then when I realized it was in the Faraday bag, I'm like, oh my God, my life has been much more peaceful. It's calmer. This thing typically rings off the hook. So I'm joining you, apparently. I've not played any online games and I couldn't tell you when. Haven't been watching a lot of TV. And eventually, to shoot straight with you, I would like to transition away from the online. I still want to keep the Prepper Nation stuff going, but I would love to be able to set it up to where I can pre-record videos, hand them off to flash drives to people I know and get them uploaded, the whole 9 yards. I don't know how to work it out, but one day, that is the dream, son. One day, Bama Jim. The bad news is there whether we read it or not. Yep, you're absolutely right, Bama Jen. It's not going anywhere. Um, and again, I understand this lady's point, and there were people in the chat this morning and comments after the fact, a lot of them saying they could relate to this lady. They feel the same way. They understand. And in a normal world, that's okay. You know, a normal world, when you turn the 6 o'clock news on and there's a bad story coming from inner Chicago and it's all the way across the country, and that's the nightly news story. You can ignore stuff like that and you can just focus on your community and your surroundings. The problem is, it seems like all of the bad news since the beginning of the pandemic affects everybody. It's like we're tied into it whether or not we want to be. The pandemic affected everybody, whether you masked up or not, whether you took the whiskey shot or not, whether you had family that were affected by it or not. Everybody saw it. Everybody had to live through it. And then Russia and Ukraine happened, right? And it's still going on. So we see that on the nightly news. Now it's, of course, Israel and Hamas, and it's going to continue. Like it's almost you can't escape it. You literally have to run from it and put your head in the sand to escape it at this point. And I just don't think that that's good from a prepping standpoint. Night of the Living Prepper. If you can't handle the news, you can't handle the event. I love that comment. Love the way you worded it. If you can't handle hearing about it, whether it's on the nightly news, whether it's here at Prepper Nation, whether it's at your favorite gloomer and doomer on YouTube, if you can't handle somebody sitting at a desk or in a corner like Baby off Dirty Dancing, son, in a little bitty bunker, if you can't handle it that way, you're not gonna be able to handle it when it's happening right in front of your face. So I love that comment. RPMC65. This was out of left field, but I did see this last night. Dana White and the UFC have signed Bud Light on as an official sponsor. I got two things to say about this. All right, again, I saw this last night. I shook my head at first, and then I'm like, you know what? Bud Light paid over $100 million. They got to be running out of money at some point because they've lost so much. I almost don't blame Dana White for this. I know that's not going to be a popular comment, but they're handing you $100 million when they're almost a poverty beer at this point. He's like, it's a free $100 million. Who cares? The thing with the boycott against Bud Light is people are either going to continue to boycott them or they're going to go back and they're going to go back to Bud Light, as many of us predicted. And Dana White and the UFC, they're getting $100 million either way. It's the biggest sponsorship money they've ever seen. So it does play to the advantage of the UFC. Bud Light, I could care less about. I don't drink anyway. But I will say this. This is the other thing I wanted to say. If people go back to Bud Light and they forget what Bud Light did and how they threw it in everybody's face and they acted like they didn't care until they started losing tons of money, it's going to prove to me that boycotts are pretty worthless here in 2023. And if people do that, Bud Light becomes like the king of beers again or whatever. Um, I'm not boycotting anything at that point. If people can't stick with this boycott, I'm going back to the stuff that I'm boycotting. I don't shop at Target anyway, but I might go back and watch NFL football at some point. I might go back to Black Rifle Coffee at some point. If we don't have enough people with enough conviction to stick to this boycott, what's the point anyway? Y'all let me know what you think though in the comments. Hunter Moon, speaking of, Hunter Moon, lack of conviction. She's not talking about Bud Light here, I don't think. She's talking about people being burned out and frustrated. And it really is a lack of conviction because it's easy, you know. I'll give you an example, Hunter Moon, but there's so many I could pull from. It's easy to buy ammo and stack it in a corner and say, I got 10,000 rounds. They're brass, son. They're not cheap steel, that cheap Russian steel. These are brass, right? Brass shells. It's easy to do that if you've got the money. Let me just throw that in there. It's not easy for everybody, but if you're put in a position where you have to defend your home during a collapse and you have 30 blue, I'm gonna call them blue hairs, right? Probably bad of me. You've got 30 blue hairs, a couple of them with shotguns coming up your hill or something, and you know these people are gonna do me and my family harm if they get here. I've got a scope. At that point, you're really gonna find out what kind of conviction you have and what kind of where you're at mentally, because that's not gonna be an easy thing to do. I know it's easy to sit on YouTube and say, "Oh, I ain't got no problem doing it," but that's something that you have to live with for the rest of your life either way. Some people are gonna be able to do that and others aren't. I don't care how much ammo they have stacked. That's a really, really hard, action to take even during a collapse. So, lack of conviction is a thing, but it can't be a thing if people are gonna survive what's coming. That's an excellent comment. Lewis Taylor, "We have to be realists." We do. And that's the point I was trying to make this morning. Brother, I am a realist. I'm an optimist and a realist. I'm somewhere in between there. So I understand the reality of the situation, and I'm trying to tell people every day, hey, this is going on. This is, and again, I don't always get it right, meaning it's not very popular sometimes. But whatever the biggest story or the biggest concern is for me that day, that's normally what I'm on here running my mouth about. And that's because I'm a realist, but I'm also trying to package it in sort of a way that I'm not beating people over the head with gloom and doom every single day because there's enough of that already. And again, I'm not crapping on the creators that do that. Everybody has their own delivery style, and everybody has their style on YouTube in general. You know what I mean? And you kind of find it along the way. And mine is, again, hey, let's sit down, have a cup of coffee, and talk about important things, but in a pleasant manner. Hopefully, it's a pleasant manner. Chuck the Canuck. You must. This is a good quote. I'm going to give it to you, Chuck the Canuck. Let me just say this, and I hope you don't take offense to this. The first week that you came into the community and I started seeing you in chats, I said, "Man, is this guy a troll? Is he trolling people? Is he in here trying to agitate people on purpose?" You know, and I was keeping an eye on you. I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't mention this to Jen, Dynamite, and the moderators, Kelly and Rambo, but after about a week, I realized, no, man, this guy's just extremely smart, and he's the ultimate realist. Like, he's not sugarcoating crap. And so I understand now when I see your comments in chat, you're not being abrasive on purpose. You're just like, it's concrete dry. This is the reality of it. So, anyway, your quote, you must become comfortable being uncomfortable. That is an excellent, excellent quote. So he's saying, look, you've got to get to a point mentally where bad news doesn't affect you in a bad way anymore. Being uncomfortable at some point has to become your comfort level if you're going to survive what's coming. And it's an excellent point because he's spot on. And I appreciate that realness, brother. Cloyo, how many troops does the UN have? I wrote it down for you. I missed that comment this morning during the live chat, though. 91,216 blue helmets. These are soldiers, these are medical personnel, these are military advisors. They're all trained in whatever it is that they do, be it drive trucks or carry rifles, but the total number currently is 91,216. Finally, prepping in the burbs. It was a longer comment. I condensed it. They're saying, isn't trial by fire true? The expression trial by fire, isn't that a thing? They were just providing a different vantage point, I think. And it is for some people. Here's the thing, pressure is going to do one of two things to people, depending on where they're at mentally. Okay. I'm not talking about physically. I've seen huge guys that were not tough mentally. And I've seen little bitty guys who, I mean, to me at least, little bitty, I'm talking about 5 foot even, right? 100 pounds, soaking wet, stack of dimes for a neck. But their life has been so hard that mentally they're like granite, you know. It's going to do one of two things, the pressure. It's going to build diamonds, and people are going to rise to the occasion, like you're talking about, or they're going to fold like cheap lawn chairs. And it is what it is. People that aren't there mentally are going to fold up more times than not. So jumping over to the replay crowd, if I can see and read my handwriting. Granny Joan, I don't come here to learn how to grow a garden. She's talking about Prepper Nation. This channel is my spirit lift for the day. Thank you for a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm glad you get the channel for what it is, and I'm glad you appreciate it, and I appreciate you being here. Number two, if you are a content creator here on YouTube, I'm getting ready to give you a huge piece of advice that I figured out a long time ago. Okay. This is not a channel that you're going to come to and learn how to build a chicken coop, grow a garden, anything like that. Dig a Dakota fire hole, for example. And the reason is there are 1,000 plus videos already on YouTube that show you how to grow a garden. So some content creators will get huffy and puffy and they're like, I'm going to do the things. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to show you how to build a chicken coop. Well, good luck with that, son. It's appreciated. Your subscribers will appreciate that. But the thing is, nobody else is going to find that video because you're now 1001 in line. Nobody else is ever going to see it. As we say in my area, it's pissing in the wind. I don't know what kind of point you're trying to prove. If you just want to do it, hey, that's you. But You're not gonna be found as a content creator putting out a video, a how-to video or an instructional video when there are already thousands that came before you that have a lot more views than you because you're just gonna be buried. So there you go. Thank you again, Granny Joan, for being here. Rick Bradley, prepping in any form must be a part of everyday life. Good comment because that is one way to avoid burnout. You know, when you first start prepping, and I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for myself and Miss Nation. I got on board with it first, but she wasn't too far behind. When you first get on board with prepping, we did it like our hair was on fire. We couldn't do it fast enough. We couldn't get the stuff stocked fast enough. And really, we started to slow down when we started to run out of room because we don't have a huge house. And we're like, oh God, we got all that. What are we going to do with this stuff? Right. But you have to go at it slowly, and you have to chip at away at it every day, and it's hard to do when you first get started, but it really does. You have to take it from obsession because I'm one of those people. I get on fire for something. Axis and Allies, which I had linked this morning. Um, when I discovered Axis and Allies 6 years ago, it wasn't just one game. I had to try and order them all. I'm obsessive in that way, right? But you have to calm that down, and you have to do it slowly and methodically and with purpose, and it has to become part of your lifestyle. And that's how you avoid burnout and also running out of room around the Ponderosa. Uh, Adrian, weak people and weak minds equal zombies during SHTF. Yep. Yep. Some weak-minded people, again, to an earlier comment, will rise to the occasion, and they will find something inside of them that they did not know existed. But 9 times out of 10, again, they're gonna fold like cheap lawn chairs, and they're gonna become zombies. They're gonna live off the preps that they have, but then when that runs out or when it comes time to take a rifle and a scope and look down the hill into the eyes of other people that mean you harm, they're not gonna be able to do it. At which point they're gonna be robbed and they're gonna become zombies. Loosh Chipper. I've had to say that name, I think, on here once before. It always trips me up. Mental prepping is priority number one, hands down. So there can be an argument there. I'm not saying you're wrong, but there are three crowds. One crowd is going to say physical prepping, meaning the physical body, meaning physically stacking things and growing things. You're gonna have your spiritual crowd, and they're gonna tell you that's priority number 1 because SHTFs and really hard situations, even in your personal life, get a lot easier when you have a relationship with your creator. But then there's also gonna be that crowd that's with you that think, mental prepping is priority number 1. Good comment. Southern Bear Outdoors, I saw this and I replied to it earlier, and I told him this is an excellent comment. All right. Because if you're feeling burnout or you're feeling dragged down, and many of you again said you were, there's nothing wrong with it. And here's a perfect example. Southern Bay Outdoors says, keep in mind, even the military has to take R&R. So the most hardened soldiers in the world got to have days off. And during these days off, they unplug, right? They're not doing the normal things. They're relaxing. They're unplugging. They're getting away from the noise for a while, and they're recharging before they go back. So there's nothing wrong with taking time off, stepping away for a few days, or maybe a week, whatever the case may be. The important thing is when it's time to saddle back up and go back to it, that you're also going to be able to do that. Uh, that's an excellent comment. Big T, I am weary of using the term World War III. I feel like it discredits World War II because of all the loss during World War II. I get what you're saying. I do. A lot of casualties during World War II, a lot of ships that were lost and things like this. I mean, it was probably the most horrific war that we've ever seen. I know World War One, the Great War, was also terrible. World War II was on a whole nother level. But the way that I approach it, Big T, if you take our time period right now and you mirror it to World War II, we're in the late 30s, 1930s, 37, 38. So it becomes a question of, and historians can't even agree on this, by the way. It becomes a question of when do you believe World War II started? Some people will say, it started on September the 1st when Germany invaded Poland, false flag style. Other people, myself included, I think World War II was the second part of World War One because you had this armistice where people just stopped fighting for 20 years so they could reload. So it just depends on where you think it started, World War II. And then you look at that origin point, and then you look at the events that took place afterwards. Most of the loss happened, you know, 1940 and beyond. So most of the loss that we're gonna see, I think, is yet to come. But I do think that we're in a world war opening stages. Chris Marie, our generation has seen this is hard to put into words, but she's right. Just think about this statement for a second. Our generation has seen a pandemic, a world war, and soon to be a depression. These three things together. Now, there are generations that lived through all three. Again, a pandemic, a Great Depression, and World War II, but they were spread out. And it's almost like we are bookending the pandemic, World War. We're going to see a financial collapse and a Great Depression. It's like the hits just constantly come. And that really puts it into perspective, Chris. Finally, I got to mention this because I need y'all's help on this. I'm trying to keep a straight face. So I probably had 20 comments since this morning that said, you hate the red thumbnail art that says red emergency or something like that all over them. You're burnt out on those. Said you're not burnt out on prepping or the prepping community. Some kind of red thumbnail, emergency thumbnail artwork here on YouTube. You're sick of it. And probably 20 people, some of them in live chat, most after the fact. I don't know if you're fans of this person. I don't know who this person is. Mhm. Clickbait Nate. Clickbait Nate's name came up. Um, this mystery man. I'm sure he's good looking. He probably lives in the north somewhere. I don't know. Well spoken, especially compared to me. But whoever this clickbait Nate character is came up dozens of times, and you didn't really say y'all didn't say much one way or the other. You just said clickbait Nate. I have no idea what you mean, but if you're fans of Clickbait Nate, if Clickbait Nate is out there and you happen to see this, sir, um, you're getting a huge shout out here from Lollipop John. we've we've all got our nicknames, I guess. I sugarcoat things. I do. Old Lollipop John. So shout out to Clickbait Nate, whomever you are. Whoever you are, brother. Hope you sell a lot of the gear that you're selling. Y'all take care and God bless.